Aboard the USS Stingray. Chapter 1.
My name is Tasha Peal, Captain Tasha Peal, Captain of the USS Stingray of the United System Federation Navy. The Stingray was commissioned just before I was given command. She is a Bradley-class Dreadnaught, the largest class of vessel in the USF Navy. There is only one ship in the naval inventory that is faster, more powerful, and more versatile than the Bradley-class Dreadnaught, the USS Constitution, a Constitution-class heavy cruiser. I was once first officer aboard the Constitution under Commodore David Stevens, who is the finest officer in the USF Navy. I took specifications, blueprints, and other technical drawings and materials of the many improved systems aboard the Constitution with me, with the permission of Commodore Stevens and his chief engineer, Commodore Robert O'Reilly. And I am often in communications with the two Commodores aboard the Constitution. I can say, with conviction, that those two Commodores are close personal friends of mine, and I treasure that friendship above every other relationship I have ever had. If I were to confess, I am in love with David Stevens. Still, he is staunchly loyal to his wife, Lieutenant Commander Stella Black Stevens, and his son, David Arthur Stevens Jr., whom they call Little Davy. Loyalty is a quality I admire in the Commodore. But we maintain a very good friendship, and I wouldn't trade that relationship for anything. Lieutenant Commander Stella Stevens, the captain's wife, was my best friend aboard the Constitution. She knew of my feelings for the captain and was still my best friend. I was devastated when I learned she had succumbed to cancer. I was able to attend her final service aboard the Constitution as her body was released into space. I mourned her passing then and still do to some extent. I hugged Little Davy and Captain Stevens, offering my condolences, and promised to pray for them as they come to my mind. After that, the Constitution went one way and the Stingray went another. The day I took command of the Stingray, I asked my three commanders to join me in my ready room. Commander Robert O'Brien and his friends call OB. OB was my chief of engineering. Commander Susan Pond, her friend called Sue. Sue was my chief of security. And Commander Bill Miller, just plain Bill. Bill was the chief of my sensor lab. I looked at the three and pointed out, OB, you're my chief engineer, and you're going to stay my chief engineer. He grinned his big, beautiful, lopsided grin. I should hope so, Captain. That's where I'm best suited. Then I told Susan, Sue, Bill has more time and grade. You would be my first officer, but I have to give Bill the right of first refusal. Bill, you're my first officer. Bob and Sue turned to Bill. Congratulations, Bill. As we left the ready room, Marina, shipwide, please. Attention all hands, this is the captain. Commander Bill Miller is the first officer. That is all. Number 1, you have the con. We are on wormhole duty. Take us to the Gavergon Wormhole UL-12. Wormhole duty came about because of the Constitution's hunt for Admiral Yellowtooth. During that hunt, the Constitution rescued many lost in the wormhole, such as the frigate, the USS Constellation from the year 1797, and so many others, even Admiral Yellowtooth. And now, every ship in the Navy got their turn at rescuing the lost from the wormhole. And this was our turn. My navigator was Lieutenant J.G. Keel Anderson, and my helmsman was Ensign Nicholas Cosey. He was a Native American, a strong and proud Apache. My science officer was Lieutenant Commander John C. Calhoun, a man with a deep Southern accent who was very proud of his name and history. My bridge engineer was Lieutenant L.W. Wiley. Believe it or not, his first name was L.W., and he was originally from Alabama. My communications officer was Lieutenant Marina Selkirk, originally from Paris, France. Marina was very pretty, even though she attracted the attention of the single men. She was all about her duties and had little time for that kind of companionship. The Stingray's complement was 725, and we could have as many as 200 guests, including 2 VIP suites. My captain on the Constitution had memorized the names of every member of his crew, their faces, and some pertinent information concerning that crewman. I am endeavoring to do the same thing with my crew. It's not easy, but I can recognize almost half my crew now, and I've had this command for 6 months. Captain Stevens toured his ship every morning when he could. The only thing that would prevent his walk was if the ship was in an emergency condition. I have set a schedule for myself and my first officer to walk every corridor on my ship at least once a week. As we walk, we talk and chat with crewmen as we encounter them. This seems to have had the effect I had hoped for, a tighter, more peaceful, harder-working crew. I have made it a habit to always be on the bridge during shift change to chat with the crewmen going off duty and the crewmen coming on duty, days, swings, and graveyard. As I walked the corridor one morning, I saw an ensign who looked like Ensign Nakamura, one of Captain Stevens' escort lab team. I stopped her and asked her name, and she answered,
Joy Nakamura, sir.
I asked her if she was related to Carol Nakamura, and she replied,
Carol is my sister. Do you know her, sir?
I was the first officer on the USS Constitution, and she was assigned to our escort lab. And she was dating an Ensign Waters. Oh, yes, I know her. The young ensign smiled.
Well, Captain, I'm glad I ran into you.
So am I. After that, there seemed to be a planned attack. I was bombarded by crewmen who had relatives on the Constitution, and they seemed to want a connection with someone who knew their relative. This seemed to be another point to bind us together, and I loved it. I grew to know more and more crewmen, giving them pride and closeness without causing any detrimental, disrespectful familiarity. It seemed to have the opposite effect. Our ship's complement consisted of citizens from almost all participating members of the United System worlds, Earth, Hephaestus, Mars, the Krill homeworld, Angel Cloud 3, and so many more. Some names were not pronounceable by the human tongue, nor did the names represent a concept understood by the human mind. So, our ship's computer provided alternative sounds understood and pronounceable by beings of another race. Understanding that what an individual knew as a name was a computer's means of making interaction and friendship between the several races even possible, and so successful that harmony existed among my crew. We approached the Gavergon Wormhole, and I directed my first officer to take us in 1 nanosecond to scan the area for any lost souls to rescue. Our first impression was that this sector of the wormhole was unoccupied. However, after a short session of scanning, we found what seemed to be a boat of a design that no one recognized. It seemed to have a crew of blobs. As we contemplated the situation, I asked myself, what would Captain Stevens do? The answer I came up with was to initiate the rescue and go from there. I ordered, number 1, get our xenobiologists to determine the atmosphere these beings need to survive, then go from there. Bill ordered,
Marina, contact Dr. Sykes, please. I want him to come to the bridge.
When Dr. Sykes entered the bridge, Bill said,
Dale, we need to determine the needed atmosphere for those beings to survive. Can do?
The doctor scratched his head.
I'll do the best I can.
Bill smiled.
I couldn't ask for more. Do what you can.
The doctor said,
I'll have to go over and take a sample.
Bill replied,
Okay. Chief Donovan, 2 security crewmen to accompany Dr. Sykes to the Lost One. Full space suits and sidearms.
It took Dr. Sykes about half an hour to determine that the beings required an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere at Earth normal pressure to survive. So we put their boat in our shuttle bay. As the beings revived, they simply stayed aboard their boat and quivered. Attempts to communicate with the beings met with no success. Bill scratched his head.
What now, Captain?
I asked, "Do we have a telepath aboard?" He replied,
I'll find out. Marina, ship-wide, please. Now hear this. This is the first officer. We need a telepath. If anyone is so endowed, please report to the bridge.
10 minutes later, Ensign Nakamura approached Bill and me.
Ensign Nakamura reporting, sir.
I turned to her. Joy? You're a telepath? She nodded.
My sister is one too. We just don't advertise, Captain.
Joy, we have living, breathing beings in the shuttle bay. We can't communicate with them. I hope you can facilitate a conversation. She was hesitant, but agreed to try. I took her down to the shuttle bay and showed her the beings we needed to communicate with. Joy, we don't know what they eat, if anything. We don't know where they are from. We don't know what to do to help them. We really need your help. Please try. She stepped over and extended her mind.
I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
The beings quaked, but nothing came.
I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
The same reaction occurred. Suddenly, her mind was assaulted and she passed out. I picked her up and ran to sick bay. As I walked in, Dr. Elizabeth Jordan grabbed a gurney and ran over to where I stood with Joy in my arms.
Captain, what happened?
We were trying to communicate with the beings in the shuttle bay. I'm not sure what happened, but she suddenly passed out. It may have been from a mental assault. Please take care of her.
Captain, you know I will. Now shoo.
Doctor, I'm captain of this ship. She replied,
Tasha, Joy needs rest, and I will take good care of her. Stop worrying.
We both laughed, and I went to the bridge. 7 hours later, Joy walked onto the bridge.
Captain, I have a message from the Slovings, what you've been calling beings. They are the Slovings. They need plant life to survive. They don't know where they are, and they don't know how long they've been lost, and they are grateful for our rescuing them from the wormhole.
I ordered, Nick, 180 degrees and out of the wormhole. In his rumbling, laughing voice, he said,
Aye, Captain. Out of the hole.
Leaving the event horizon, I ordered, all stop. Marina, message to Admiral Paul, rescue beings, Slovings, lost in the wormhole. We are all clueless about what to do. We've never encountered the Slovings. We don't know where they are from, and we don't know how to help them. We are going to see if we can obtain a copy of their star charts and see what we can find out. Had to leave the wormhole before being sucked in. Will report progress. Captain Peal. I asked Joy to try to get the Sloving star charts. And she left and went to the shuttle bay. I looked at Bill. Number 1, that girl's got guts. He nodded.
Should be up for a fast promotion.
About 2 hours later, Joy returned with a disc.
Captain, here are their star charts. Maybe our computer will be able to decipher them.
I ordered, Peel, this is your bailiwick. Have at it. And Joy handed him the disc. Keel took the disc and asked,
What's this?
Joy said,
It's an old-fashioned data compact disc. Their star charts are recorded on it.
He asked,
What do I do with this? I've never used this kind of thing.
Joy grabbed it from his hand.
Computer, analyze this CD and correlate the star chart data found on it.
Place the CD in the reproducer on the engineering substation.
Joy handed the disc to LW, and he slid the CD into the slot and waited.
Correlation completed.
When the CD was returned, Joy took the CD and returned to the shuttle bay. Keel, display the retrieved star chart data and tell me where the Sloving are from. He said,
I don't know what to do.
I raised my voice a little. You're my senior navigator. Get your crew together and figure it out. I expect a report tomorrow morning. He looked me in the eye and replied,
Yes, sir.
Number 1, ready room. Bill, do we need to start classes in basic spacemanship? He replied,
It looks that way, sir. But let's see what we get tomorrow morning.
I just nodded, smiling. The next morning, Bill told me the navigation crew had worked on the problem until 600 hours. He handed the report.
They did it, sir. The Sloving come from the Ursa Minor expanse, about here.
As he pointed to a particular system.
That's about 2,000 light years from here. That'll take 3 months at maximum burn.
Hey, we got them to do some thinking. Let's go. I stepped onto the bridge and took the command chair, Peal, to the Ursa Minor expanse. Nick, UL-12, please. I ordered, Marina, message to Admiral Paul. Slovings gave us their star charts. Their homeworld seems to be in the Ursa Minor expanse. Taking the Sloving home. I hope. Captain to OB, come talk to me when you have time. OB came directly to the bridge. Number 1, you have the con. OB ready room. As we entered, OB, I have plans for a plasma cannon. I said as I handed him the blueprints, study these, I want 4 cannons on this tub as soon as possible. He replied,
Where am I going to get these parts?
I handed him a USB stick right here. These are the replicator instructions for these and other changes I want to make to the Stingray. He asked.
Where did these come from?
He was surprised.
O'Reilly, let you have these.
I just smiled. Tell me when you can start on the cannons. He shrugged.
Aye, Captain.
And he left almost running. Computer, show me the principle upon which our shields are based.
Working. Working. Schematics available.
On screen. I studied the information provided and asked Marina to hyperspace a message to Commodore Robert O'Reilly aboard the USS Constitution. O'Reilly, would you please message me the plans for the Constitution's shields? Tasha. 13, 6 days later, Tasha, enclosed as you asked. Also sent replicator instructions. O'Reilly. 12, I smiled, 10 words, and 1 is your name. Bless you, O'Reilly, thanks. Tasha. 13, I stuck my head out of the ready room. Number 1, you're with me. Nick, you have the con. We walked to the lift.
Captain, where are we going?
I replied, engineering. I have the specifications for shields like the Constitution. I want those shields on the Stingray. We stepped into engineering, and a voice rang out.
Captain in engineering.
OB spun around.
Captain.
OB, I have another task for you. Look at this. How hard would it be to give the Stingray these new shields? His eyes widened.
When do you want these things done?
I replied, yesterday. When we get to the Slovings' homeworld, maybe we could stay in orbit a while so that the shields and cannons could be installed. OB smiled that lopsided grin and said,
We'll start replicating the things we need for the modifications and store them in some of the passenger cabins until we need them. We can do some of the interior work while we are moving. But we will need some help with the work when we get started. You know, all muscle and no brain work, like pulling wire through conduits.
I turned to Bill. Number 1, make up a list of crewmen that have worked in engineering and have a related education. You know the drill. People to augment engineering when I want to install these changes. Thanks, OB. Bill and I left for the bridge. Oh, yeah. Bill, I want a couple of computer nerds to meet me in my ready room. Younger ones. Bill and I met in my ready room with Ensign Joy Nakamura, Ensign Carrie Winters, and Ensign Mary Noble. I invited them to sit. Kids, I need a team of computer geniuses to develop an escort lab. The puzzled looks told me I needed to explain. I was first officer on the USS Constitution, and my captain had a team that could project holograms of ships in space. Complete with known captains' voices, realistic transponder signatures, the works. They started with 3 ships, but eventually, we could produce a phalanx. I want you to start slow. Give me 1 ship with all these characteristics. And grow from there. Number 1, see that they get the space and equipment they need. Oh, yes, your ships must be able to fool our sensors. Well, what do you think? Joy asked.
Is it even possible, sir?
I replied, not only is it possible, the Constitution's escort lab has done it. I won't tell you how, that's for you to work out your way. Dismissed. The 3 shook their heads and left the ready room. Bill, make it happen. Bill asked.
Why escort lab?
I smiled. Their first assignment was to provide a 2-ship escort so that the Constitution could get close enough to teleport some critical people to the ship without being challenged. Upon reaching the Ursa Minor expanse, we began to head for the Slovings' home system. Their system, their home planet, was in the Pegasi Major star system, another 3 days away. I asked Joy to communicate with the Sloving to see what we could learn. Joy came to the bridge, with one of the Sloving following her.
Captain, this is Captain Goldwave. He would like to talk to you.
Let's go into my ready room. I gestured to sit, but Captain Goldwave extended a pseudopod and touched my hand, and then I heard a voice.
Captain Peal, we are so grateful that you rescued us from the wormhole. I have no idea how long we were there, and I truly don't know what to expect when we arrive home. But understand that we will be friends until the stars cease to shine.
I touched his pseudopod. Captain, I am touched by your sentiments. Our mission has always been to find friends, and yes, we will be friends, as you have said. We will arrive at what we believe to be your home world in 3 days. Then we shall see what we shall see. I'll ask you to come back here to verify that we are at the right place. Joy and Captain Goldwave left the room and the bridge. 3 days later, Joy told me that the Slovings were thinking of launching their ship to return home and that Captain Goldwave would let us know how it would all go. And so we sat and waited to hear something.
USS Stingray, this is Captain Goldwave, all is well. You have leave to remain in orbit to begin the modifications on your ship. You may offer your crew shore leave here on Ginger World.
The captain asked to be teleported aboard to offer Bill, Joy, and me a guided tour of his world. Let me describe the Sloving people. They are a yellowish globular mass of quivering jello, about 3 feet in diameter. If, in a ball shape, they have control of their shape and can produce pseudopod or multiple pseudopods to accomplish whatever they want to do. The captain came, we teleported down to the surface, and were immediately awed by the beauty of their world and civilization. As we toured, the citizens of their world displayed curiosity about us. They often extend a pseudopod to communicate goodwill toward us and thank us for helping their astronauts get home.